Hey, it's Brian. Welcome to Heart to Heart. I am so excited for our 11th episode with our guest, Tay Smith. Born into the music industry, Tay has the entertainment business in his blood. And now, as co-owner of Smith Young Talent Agency, he has made the pivotal move from managing music artists to placing actors in film and television roles. You need to have a desire and passion to make it in show business, and Tay is a testament to that. Be sure to listen to Tay's insider scoop on what it's like in the booming Southeast market. And before you listen, you've got to grab our Backstage Pass because it is packed with Tay's top tips, insider advice, and additional resources that will give you a competitive edge. You can grab the Backstage Pass by going to podcastbackstagepass.com. For our listeners, you're an agent at Smith Young Talent Agency, and
Yes.
you come to our Atlanta trips. And as I told you, but for all our listeners, you truly are one of the gems that we have, and we always love having you, and it's a personal pleasure. When you attend, and you have such a giving spirit. So I'd just love to hear a little bit about how you, and you're young too, and you're a co-owner of this big agency, in the Southeast with, a division in LA now. Just wanted to hear how you became you.
Oh man, originally I started in the music business, so I was a manager first. So I kind of grew up around the music business because my dad was a music producer. So I grew up around some celebrities and things like that, and in and out of recording studios, and just around artists. I'll say that.
So can I ask if with your dad, did he
Yeah.
produce anybody that we might have heard their music?
Yeah, so he produced mainly R&B groups. So,
Great. I love R&B.
especially, yeah. So we were out of Baltimore. So Drew Hill songs with them, another group, Ruffins, which all of them are like family to me. And he sold some songs to what's the rapper Nas. So yeah, he's been doing it for a while. So I kind of just grew up around it, like I said, in and out of recording studios and just around artists just in general. And I kind of think it goes hand in hand when it comes to artistry, from television and film actors to singers or rappers and things like that, and trying to merge the two.
It's funny. What do you think is so funny about how something like, let's just talk about music, right? Like
Yeah.
rap. Everybody thinks of New York, but and they think of LA, but you don't realize Baltimore. I mean, look at the rapper who we still think is alive.
Right.
He spent time in Baltimore. I think he was born in Brooklyn
He was born in Brooklyn. And fun fact is, we actually went to the same elementary and middle school.
Get out of town.
Obviously not at the same time, but we went to the same elementary and middle school. We went to a school called Roland Park Elementary and Middle School combined. And so we used to always go in to the library that was in the actual school, and used to see where he would sign out books when he was younger at the school. And
did he use his name Tupac or no?
Yeah, that's his government name that he was born
Whoa,
with.
get out of here. Whoa. So you would
Yep.
see that's incredible.
Yeah, and what was it? Maybe a month or two ago, somebody that I have no idea who it was. I don't know if their kid goes to the library or somehow they're a part of the library, but they went back and saw some of the books, and they actually put them on Facebook and said, "Wow, I didn't realize that he went to the school, but we knew." When I was growing up, that he went to school because he would sign out books, and some of the teachers said they knew they taught him.
Unbelievable. That's incredible. You went to the same school, and that school had a huge influence on him.
It did, because he went from there in middle school, and then he went to the school, the School of the Arts there.
Yeah.
Also where he met Jada Pinkett Smith. Now. They went to the same school, but a lot of the recording artists and actors went to that, and even actual artists that draw went to that same school. So it's a big hub.
Baltimore,
I don't think it get a lot of recognition. I'll say that.
But believe me, I happen to be a big Baltimore Orioles fan, so I know about Baltimore.
Man.
And also, I think. I don't know about you, but I think The Wire is probably one of the greatest shows ever, if not the greatest, on TV.
It is. It is the most realistic.
Yes.
I lived under those conditions. So the majority, I'll say 90% of what they're saying is actually true. Like the
You
whole
want to hear
structure of
something interesting?
everything. Yeah.
All right. There's an actor who was a one-on-one actor,
Uh-huh.
comes to me and he says, I really am having a trouble, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, go down and drop off your headshot to the casting director who's casting the show, right? He says,
Yeah.
it says, don't call, don't visit. I said, yeah, rules are made to be broken. Long story short, he goes down for the wire, drops off his headshot. They call him in for an under 5. Long story short, I don't know if you know the actor Jamie Hector. So
Absolutely.
he played the like the scariest character on the whole show. At under 5 became,
Absolutely.
yeah. So what the reason I'm telling the story, and this is great. It's it's all of us, is because there's an inspiration right there. He did it. He went from an under 5 to like a major player on that show.
I had no idea that it started off as an under 5, but those
Yeah,
stories do happen. I keep telling people, like, don't be offended if you get a under 5 or a co-star. I said because we had several people that have gotten a co-star, supposed to be a one-off, and they're on like their 8th or 10th episode. So you just never know. I always say, as long as you can have your face on camera as many times as possible, you'll reap the benefits in the long run.
and the way
But
he
yeah.
played that role, he was very quiet, but he was scary as anything.
He was like the kingpin there.
Yes,
So
yes.
that was one of my favorite shows, and it's funny because years later, obviously, I'm doing what I'm doing now. I never thought that I would be doing this. I knew I'd be in entertainment somehow, but I never thought I would be an agent. But at the same school that I was talking about, where me and Tupac went at different times, I had a teacher there, and I knew growing up that she was an actress. She didn't talk about it, but come to find out when I look back, oh wait a minute, she was on The Wire. She played the district attorney, and I think it was the district attorney. Her name is Susan Rome, and we had a love hate relationship when I was growing up. But she was one of my she was one of my favorite teachers to this day, and I have not been able to connect with her to tell her, "Wow, you'll be surprised at what I'm doing now." We're kind of in the same industry, but yeah, it's so amazing how things coming back around full circle.
Well, so anyway, I can only imagine because people who grew up in Philly, they think they're tough. Baltimore people are even tougher. So
Absolutely,
you grew up in a
yeah,
very tough thing, and so you shined because what's interesting, the music business. I
yeah,
mean, I come back to this story too many times for Brian, but he's going to hear it one more time. The other day, I'm listening to this podcast of this guy, Rick Rubin.
yeah. I
And,
know, yeah,
and so Rick Rubin was just a fan of music, and he would go to Negril in New York,
hmm
14th Street, and he just approached like Kool Moe Dee and said, "Listen, I love your music. I want to get involved." And that's how he started. He wasn't a producer, and that's
yeah,
and what I'm getting at for you is okay. So we want to hear your story about your dad was a producer, and somehow you got into the music business. But you know what? It's incredible how Rick Rubin also, I think he also got involved somehow with comedians, and
yeah,
I used to book comedians,
mhm,
and there's something about once you have the desire, right? And once an actor has the desire and they say, I want to do this, you
right.
just apply that principle to anything you want.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
we see it a lot. We definitely see it a lot. Just like I said, entertainment is at a whole, it kind of merges together at some point. And so what we ended up doing was, so my business partner, his name is Chris Young, and we've now, I'm trying to think, man, I feel we've known each other for 16 years now, I
wow.
believe. And he was in the music business. And how we connected is through relationships between my dad and other producers and coming down to see him for music stuff.
Mm.
And eventually he became a music business consultant for me because he's a little bit older than me. He had more success quicker than I had. So he was a manager as well, and he had managing writers for the most part, artists, but also actual writers for music, and they've won Grammys at this point, multiple Grammys at this point. And at the same time, we were running the same circles. We were like, the music industry is going all the way downhill at this point. This is when like Napster started happening and LimeWire and all
Mhm.
the sales declined and
Yeah, that's a
all of
Blast from
this.
my childhood. Like I haven't
Right.
heard those terms in like 25 years.
Right. So right when I was on the brink of, major success in there, everything went crashing down. So we looked at each other and were like, listen, let's take these individuals that are music artists
Mhm.
and turn them into television and film folk. And it worked. And one of the very first that was a rapper at first is Algie Smith, who is one of the series regulars on Euphoria. He
Oh,
played in the Detroit Project, which I think it was Oscar nominated. So all of those things, and we booked him on all those except for the Euphoria project. So everything that launched him into being a celebrity at this point, we actually did. So
amazing.
we just took music artists and started placing them
Well, it's funny,
in there.
Tay. I went out with this woman, and she was friends with this band, and she actually played with she had her own band, and she played in this band, TV on the Radio.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of them, but she always said, she goes, you should get involved with with hip hop artists because they're perfect people to transition to acting, and they all want to
Yep.
be actors. And so, and then you're telling the story, and that's what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I never thought of it that way, but once we started putting the pieces together, a lot of hip hop, you're in a recording booth, the whole process, you're acting out stuff that you've written, most of the time.
Vision.
So with a little bit of tweaking, most of the time they end up being naturals, and a lot of them, honestly, some of them had coaching, like I said, to tweak some things, but it was just naturally had it. And what do they call them? Triple threats. So they were able to, sing, rap, act, dance, all these different variety of things that helped them become what they are today. So it's one and the same.
Yeah, well, it's funny, Tay. Like she always said, the reason why you got to do this with them is because they have such desire to be on television and film. Now, what I
Yes.
want to ask you is, Brian and I always live by this slogan, where there's a will, there's a way. But if you don't have the person that has the desire, then you're wasting your time, and everybody's wasting their time, right?
Hey, it's Brian. I'm dropping in on an important announcement. What you need to know is you have more control over your career than you think. The thing standing between you and the career you want is your connections, and that's where One-on-One Next Level comes in. If you are not a member yet, you can apply to join at oneononenextlevel.com. Press pause and do that now. If you are already a member and you are ready to get back on track, we want to invite you to book a strategy session with us led by myself personally. We will help you prioritize which classes make the most sense given your career goals. You can find these under the Resource Hub in your account portal. We can't wait to hear your success story.
So I always say, from this business is 30 years old, and so Brian and I, we're interviewing some people right now for a position, and I always tell him, give me the less talented person that
Hmm.
has more desire. If you're looking for the person that has the most desire, desire wins out over anything. Wouldn't you say that true? That's true.
100%. So since you said that, look, I have stories for days.
Yeah,
So
let's
even
hear
when I was doing my thing in the music business, I was a manager, so I had my set of recording artists, and I was so passionate about having success in there to where I would stay up all night making sure that I did everything for the company.
Wow.
So owning my own company, as soon as I turned 18 legally, I took on multiple jobs, and I had, other people to help as well that we kind of brought on to help. But even if it was out at 1 o'clock in the morning, hanging up signs, contacting this record company, this A&R, taking trips, I was funding a lot of the trips. I had a grandparent that had passed away and left me an inheritance, so I took that and dumped it into the recording artist. But one thing to get back to your story, the one thing that I did notice is that, wait a minute, I'm putting in way more work. So I was calling the recording artist to come to a free studio session that was already paid for. They wouldn't show up. calling them to go out of town that's already paid for. They had something else they wanted to do. So
Mm.
all of these things, and it kind of just, all of that happened around the same time that I said, you know what? I'm doing way more than you are. I'm putting forth everything. I shouldn't want this more than you. So you need to find the person that has the desire, that wants to do it, that wants. I remember watching something where they say you need to have the desire as bad as you want your next breath.
That's right.
And yeah, so and once I knew I was that person and they weren't, we kind of slowly moved away. And then that's when, all around the same time, I went into television and film space.
And it's so
No.
and it's so valid with actors too. You hear I mean, we deal with them and you deal with them. But, I've definitely heard some reps. They tell that they in these showcases they go, "Hey, I will work just as hard as you, but I won't work harder." So it's like if you're not going to show up to your appointment, if you're not going to send in yourself tape, if you're not going to show up on
Yes.
set, it's like
Yep.
and I think it's so good for our our listeners to hear. It's that sometimes half the battle is showing up.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always a clear difference in the person that treats it as a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
a part-time hobby, versus the person that they've been desiring this since they were like kids, and they're going to do everything that they can. You can't imagine. Well, I'm pretty sure actually you can't imagine the horror stories that we've witnessed and seen, as far as, actors going all out, living in their cars because they wanted, enough money to do self tapes and to travel to go to this audition and things like that. Not being able to afford a hotel, so they had a universal gym membership, so they're going to the gym in California or here, where they can go and use the shower in there. So we've heard everything. Like I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well,
So I can
Tay,
imagine.
you probably already listened to it, but who's the comedian who he got a gig at the Apollo, but he's older now, and he got a game show. It's like one of the most successful game shows. He's been on it for years. He's like, who
Steve
is that?
Harvey.
Okay, so Steve Harvey. You gotta, anybody listening, look up Steve Harvey, Google that thing where he tells his story about how he lived out of his car and he
Hmm.
got the opportunity at the Apollo and he had to figure out how to get 300. So this $300 just to like fly from Florida. So this is
Yep.
what I'm telling you, Tay. As you tell your story, I had to write this down. When you have the desire that's strong enough, and obviously you had it, then the certainty is there. And when
Yeah.
there's certainty, there's guaranteed success. But creating certainty is not that easy. You have to have that desire.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you have to first, I had to talk to myself from the beginning. And one thing I realized, and it was something simple. Someone had told me, I had witnessed somebody say something years ago that always have stuck with me. And they were trying to do something, and someone had doubted them. And they said, well, no, I can do anything. Something so simple, so simple. But what I applied, and what I took from it was, no, I can really do anything that you could think of. I know that I can do it.
Mhm.
I firmly believe I could have become anything that I wanted to become in this world. I just chose this. So if I wanted to leave and go practice law, I know that I can do it. If I want to become a doctor, I know for a fact I can do it. As long as I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. It's like, you just have to catch up to it. So that's my mindset, and I look for people that have that same type of mindset. And it's more of the idea of manifestation. Like, I will visualize, what I want to do, and what time span that I want to do it. And if it's not exactly there, it's in proximity of when I said it was going to happen. If it's certain things that I want, or if it's certain goal that I'm trying to meet in this entertainment business, okay, I'm going to be here within such and such amount of years. This is going to happen. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Like, I'm guaranteeing you it's going to happen, because I've already seen it.
Mhm.
So yeah.
We're going to come back to your story because I want to go through the connecting of the dots. But I wanted to ask you. So with that in mind, when you see an actor in like a showcase or anywhere, and what do you like? In other words, what happens for you where you go like, I want to work with that person? What is it?
You know what? A lot of times I can tell right away. It's hard to describe, but I always say, whenever you see an actor perform, whether it's in person or on tape, and it gives you a overwhelming, haunting feeling, then you know that that's the one. Like, they're gonna work. Are they going to be a big time celebrity? That's up to fate. But are they
Can you
going to
give us
book?
can you give us a story in the last 2 years of someone you saw that, it happened to you? Let's hear.
Absolutely. So even from doing showcases with you guys, everyone that I've selected, I guarantee they have booked within the first 2 months of us signing them.
Wow.
And most of the time, it happens within the first month.
And
That
what would you say is the ingredient? Why does that happen?
It's just I don't know it. I think it's their personal desire, and me kind of seeing it. Once I see them there, and I go back and I have a follow up conversation with them, I dig a little bit deeper. I know some agents may look, oh, let me see your resume, let me see your headshot. That's not doing nothing for me. So I'll get on here and I'll ask Brian, tell me, where did you grow up? Tell me about you growing up. Did you have a happy childhood? Did you not have a happy childhood? Was it rough? Was it easy? Like what was it? Did you always desire to do this, or did you desire to do something else? So I ask all these questions because I think that you know actors are a lot of times they're not all the time, but a lot of times they plan themselves in different variations. For the most part, it's far few in between actors that are just like complete total opposite of what they are, in person. So a lot of times they just plan variations. Like you think of some of your most skilled actors, and you see them in like their last 10 movies. A lot of times it's going to be close to the same thing.
Wow.
So I see it, and I connect with the people on a different level. I go back, I kind of pick apart their tapes. I ask them to send me tapes as well. I pick apart their mannerisms. Because I also have to put on the hat, not only as an agent, but okay, if I was a producer, if I was a director, would this work in here as well? You got to go to another level to find out, would this actually work? Well, no, I couldn't see this on TV, or maybe I could. So a lot of that stuff gives me the extra edge of, I guess, knowing how to deal with somebody. If you have a person that is just deadpan, you're not going to put them in for the overly quirky role. It's just, if they're naturally deadpan, it's just not going to work. So you kind of have to play into their strengths at the same time.
And one of my favorite, just seeing you at the showcases is right before when Tay goes, "Hey, I signed this guy, from the last trip, and he's a
Yep.
recurring now." And it's such a, it gives me the energy to power through the next 4 hours of the showcase.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it never fails. Like I'm very selective on who we bring in, but I think I told you this before, Brian. You guys have a great filtering process because everybody is good. So a lot of times it's more so not even who's good, who's not. It's like, what are we lacking in our roster that we need to fill because we know they're going to work. But then I can see that extra edge with somebody that's in that category, and then I apply it, and it works. Like I'm serious. I really don't believe anybody has gone the first 2 months without booking.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and one more, I always like to tell the story because since we said like, what do you notice? I remember it was a little bit more than 2 years ago, but I remember this young lady walking into our office, and she was just like, I am. She look, it was summertime. It might have been spring, but I think it was summertime. She came in this mink coat. I know she was burning up like like the celebrity that she is. She may have had like one credit on her resume, and I was sitting and talking. She was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. It was like it's no wiggle room in between.
Did she have an
And
appointment?
she had an appointment. She
Okay.
had an appointment. I saw her tape and I was like, wow, yeah. So we brought her in, and when she came in, this is one of those cases. This is one of these rare cases. So she came in and she was like, I'm going to do this. I'm sitting there thinking, I know that you're burning up right now, but you're like the celebrity, in your own mind. And so you got to play the part. And when she left after that meeting, me and Chris, I looked at Chris and I said, she's going to have a quick trajectory. She's going to be a celebrity within the next year or two. We're going to do that for her. I said, but she is going to blossom and it's going to happen quickly. You can count on your hand how many times it happens at that speed. And, now she's Madison Bailey of Outer Banks and all of this other stuff. And we got her that, but it was just back to back to back. We had booked her on like 5 things back to back to back, test deals right out the gate. And it just so happened that she got Outer Banks out of the all like three series regular test deals, and
Amazing.
there he
Wow.
goes. Yeah, yeah. So it happens like that.
As you're telling this story, he's going to kill me, but I have to tell you, Tay, you are a God man. You have the light all over you. You grew up with
Oh man.
going to church or something, right?
Yeah,
Something.
yeah, yeah.
Oh no, I can tell. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. No, you're very spiritual.
Man, I thank you for
No,
noticing.
you can
Yeah,
just tell you've got a light. So I want to go back to your story because it's so inspiring for others to hear because it's a totally different path.
yeah.
So you were in the music business. Your dad did it. You're like in your early 20s now. What's going on? I'm
Well,
trying to connect the dots.
well, you mean
No,
back
no, no. Yeah,
then?
back then. Yeah. So like, all right. So like, you're hustling. Did you
Yeah,
find an artist? Like, what happens?
yeah. So I actually grabbed my first recording artist from school. I was in high school, and I would see rapper like in lunch at lunch. They were rappers in the corner, not eating. If we had lunch, they're not eating. One is beating on the table, the other one is rapping. It's a few of them, and was look at them like, "Hey, you're not good, but you're special." And then you would have another corner over on the other end of the singers. And again, you can't sing, but you actually can. So it was putting the pieces together. So I would finally went over to him and I was like, hey, my dad's in the music business. We have a recording studio. Will you come? They were looking at me because I was new because I had just moved from uh, Baltimore to North Carolina. And they were looking at me like, I don't know who you are. I'm not coming to no recording studio. And so I kept asking and asking and asking, and we really had a full fledged recording studio, like big mixing board, soundproof booth, everything. And when they finally, one of the artists finally got there, he was like, "Oh man, you weren't kidding! Like, no, I wasn't." And we had success. We had quick success. Um, Deals that were in the process, but then the interest, his life kind of went a different way. And then that's when mine picked up towards that. But the journey up until that point was incredible. I think it geared me up for everything to encounter just how to deal with artists, going on college tours and things like that.
Yeah.
Fighting, trying to get them shows, learning this is my rejection from the bit. So actors get rejected every day. So then I was on the side of being a manager. I feel passionate about my recording because I know this person is gifted. Like, it's just no doubt about it. People telling me no, they're not going to play your song on the radio. They're not going to let him open up for this person. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, what is wrong with these people? But then we started being persistent and getting the yes. So I learned how to fight through that, learn how to expect the no, but fight further for the yes. So all that stuff kind of molded me. And artists have a personality about them.
And it's hard hearing no.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when you know internally that you're great, and you hear people tell you no, and you're looking at them like you're crazy. Like, do you know who I am? Like, do you like? And you're the artist. Like, do you know what I'm gonna do? So I understand that. Like, with some people, they know that they are great. They're here for a different purpose, a higher purpose, and I've encountered those people, and it helps me deal with like the actors today because artists are going to be artists at the end of the day.
Okay, so you take these guys,
Yeah.
they have a degree of success, right?
Yes.
Or okay, so now so are you like, hey, I'm staying in the music business, or I'm thinking about going to work for, like, for instance, for a short term, I tempted ICM in the music business. So
Yeah.
did you think about like going to like a company like a You know,
No, I thought about merge. My whole goal was to merge with a bigger record company because I had my own, and we call them record companies, but technically they're just production companies because all a record company is a bank, to be honest with you. Um, that's all.
okay,
I had attorney. One of my attorneys told me that years ago. They were like, "No, you want a production entity. You don't want an actual record company at this stage because that's all they are. It's just a bank. It's a face in a bank. That's all they are." But yeah, no, that was my whole goal was to be placed and get a sub deal under a major. And so I was working aggressively to fulfill that and doing everything I possibly could. And again, that's where I ran into my business partner, Chris, because he'd already accomplished that. He had already had major deals before, for recording artists with major record companies. And like I said, a lot of his writers, not even the artists, his writers had Grammys, so they were highly successful. So I was just gleaning all the information from him that I possibly could. But yeah, it was a lot of sacrifice. I'll go back to that. It was times to where when I was living in North Carolina and I knew I had, because Atlanta was just booming in the music business. They were like where everything was coming out of. You had to be in Atlanta. It's from where I used to live at in North Carolina. It was a 6 to 6.5 hour drive. I would literally, and this is when like I was depleting all of my funds. I would
yeah, I was going to
literally
say where are the funds coming from?
once I ran through, I had a regular job at once, and then
Okay,
if they would, because I was the nice person, so they would, even though a record company or production company is supposed to recoup,
right.
they would go and do a show. I just put thousands into your CD to get them pressed up and released. But you would go do a show, I would give you all the money. It's still, I just whatever.
Wow.
So
And Jay, this is BC, right? Before
yes,
Chris.
yeah,
Before
yeah,
Chris. Okay.
absolutely. It was right there before, and then merging into meeting him.
Okay. How
And
did you meet him?
it was through it was years prior, briefly through my dad. My dad
Really?
had a relationship with another producer, and he said, "Hey, I'm working down here with this guy named Chris Young. He is tearing up the music scene down here in Atlanta. Everybody is trying to get to him. He's gotten this person a deal, this person a deal, and this person a deal. We need to get in contact." So we came down, had brief interaction with Chris, and then kind of went back to North Carolina and didn't really manifest it in anything for my dad at that point. But I kept on, a few years later, I remembered who he was. And so I kept pestering him like, "Hey, I know what you can do. I have these people that are good. You need to go ahead and take notice to them." So I would drive like on no money. I would go and like use like a debit card as credit for like a tank of gas, and I would drive literally 6.5 hours for a 30-minute meeting in Georgia and turn right back around and go back. Those were the things that I was doing because I was like, I want this. I am going to make this happen regardless. And
Yeah.
so it was a lot of sleepless nights and on the road and, short meetings that actually turned into something. It may not have turned into something long term for the recording artist, but it looked like it turned into something long term for me.
So did he say to you one day, "Okay, I want you to come work with me"?
Yeah, he said that you know you are extremely hungry and you have an eye for talent. Like you kind of remind me of myself. Um, and at the time, I was like, yeah, this music thing is going downhill right now. Like it's not looking good. Nobody is really selling albums anymore. It's just not looking the same. He was like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Ironically, he was going to Los Angeles for a few weeks for a couple of months for pilot season. He had a relationship with an agency here in Atlanta. Actually, it was J Purpose Talent Agency, and he had a few other relationships with agents in LA. So he took the music people, brought me in. I guess you can say I was back at home, but helping out, not virtually, but remotely of some sort. And yeah, so we just made it happen. He went down there and I said, well, what are you doing down there? He was telling me like how long he was going to be down there. What was the plan? I jumped on a plane. Like that was a Wednesday that he told me. And by Friday, I was on a plane down there. One of
To Atlanta.
this was to Los Angeles for
To Los
pilot
Angeles.
season.
Oh,
One
whoa!
of
So
the
you
one
went
of
to Los Angeles.
yeah one of the actors that we had the first week got a national commercial. The second one tested for series regular on Nickelodeon. They didn't want him for the series regular after he tested for it, but they actually brought him in for a heavy recurring guest star because his profile matched more of the character they were thinking for the other project. So yeah, they shot a few episodes, but the pilot didn't go beyond five. The series didn't go beyond five episodes, so it kind of tanked after that. But you
All
know,
right, so because I want to get to what Brian was. So you're in Los Angeles, but how did it fuse from that you remember from music to like you're then segueing it to acting? Just because all of a sudden he said, "Hey, I'm going to go to LA," to or how did that happen?
I was going with the flow, to be honest with
Okay,
you.
okay,
I was not limiting myself. I was going with the flow, and I knew I had a feeling that they were both going to be connected at some point. And I knew I had an eye for talent. Um, and I trusted Chris enough as well too, just based off of the relationship that we were building, his eye for it, his success. I was like, okay, I'm trusting him. You know, I can probably get the recording artist even that I have onto this trajectory as well. But we were just working together, two people with the same vision, and that's how we found that unique combination with each other.
did that combination did that pretty much was that realized when you were in Los Angeles together for that project?
It picked up more. I knew it before because that's what made me get on the plane, but it picked up more. You know, once I was in Los Angeles, we spent a lot of time. It was almost like we created, I don't know, a artist house. Like everyone was in there. You know, just think you have like five or six actors and artists. Most of them dance, some of them sing, some of them rap. They all acting. One that might be doing backflips in the living room. The other one's they in the other room singing. The other one's over here dancing, and it's just like this big, conglomerate that's just happening all under one roof, and it just felt artistic. You felt the energy, and all of them became successful. So
Wow.
it was just an amazing feeling that only happens once in a lifetime.
You fly to Los Angeles. You're with Chris. Where are you guys staying, and how long do you stay in Los Angeles till you head back to Atlanta?
We were staying in all of them were staying in Chris's god sister and godmom's house there.
You got to hustle.
They took up so much space in there. I had to go. I was back and forth through a hotel because it was just everybody had took up too much space. I was like, oh my goodness, this is not enough room. So I was in a hotel and with a buddy. So it was just like back and forth. And then finally I went back to North Carolina. They stayed out there maybe one or 2 weeks beyond what I stayed out there for. And I don't know, when I came back, a few months later, I made a couple of trips to Atlanta. And then I realized that, it would be easier for me to move there versus every time I need to go take a meeting, I need to drive 6.5 hours.
Mm.
So,
well, I mean, the fact that you even got on a plane to go to LA in the first place, it seemed like when you got on the plane to meet Chris, it's like you guys had only had a few initial meetings. It wasn't like you guys were, so that was a huge leap of faith on your end too.
And it panned out.
Yeah. It's like a risk. In a way, it was a risk, and it paid off.
Yeah, because I look back at it, I was like, man, yeah, that was a big risk. Yeah.
It could have been, it's one of those things where you're like, I know it's the right thing, but it's unconventional, and it could be an idiot thing, but it actually, pays off.
But there's a parallel to that, and you saying to an actor, hey, in the next couple of months, we're going to get you whatever you're saying, guest star, because you have the faith and you have the commitment. And
Absolutely.
you would never have gotten involved with Chris to go to LA for you, hearing your story, if you didn't 100% believe he was your man.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we were slowly building that relationship. I was seeing how he was moving throughout his personal life and his in the industry, and it made sense. And like I said, we kind of mirrored each other because it reminded me of myself, and he said, the same thing. So it just made sense. It's one of the things to where it was just meant to happen.
Nobody does special programs like One on One Next Level. It's where we really help actors shine.
I'm Emilio. I signed with my Southeast agent right after the Atlanta trip, and now I'm auditioning several times every month. And I almost didn't do the Atlanta trip because I thought it was just another cash grab. I can tell you from experience that it's not. That's not how One-on-One Next Level rolls. And here we are 6 months later, and I already booked my first job with my Atlanta agent.
I'm Rebecca, and the Bridge program demystified the industry for me. It gave me the platform to get off book in under 10 minutes. I met 60 new artists that are now all a part of my community, and I even signed with a manager. I have never walked away from a program so confident in my abilities. I'm so grateful for One-on-One Next Level.
My name is Capenna, and I can finally call myself a working actor after participating in the LA Super Showcase. I had just moved to LA and I felt stuck. I came across the LA Super Showcase, and let me tell you, it was a life-changing experience. I signed with an agent, and since then, I've been auditioning for series regulars and booked my first TV job. I finally feel like I made it to the next level, thanks to One-on-One Next Level.
In the next 12 months, One-on-One Next Level will host 27 special programs bringing you unmatched exclusive access to industry connections. Special programs aren't just a one-and-done class. Instead, they're designed to accomplish in a weekend what it takes most actors months, even years to do. So whether you want to get repped in a smaller market like Atlanta, bypass casting directors and connect directly with TV showrunners and decision makers, or spend a weekend meeting a bunch of musical theater industry professionals in New York City, you have to become a member to be eligible to sign up for our special programs. To apply, go to www.oneononenextlevel.com. We can't wait to hear your success story.
What year did you move to Atlanta? What was the year?
I moved to Atlanta, I believe, was it 2016? I officially moved. The end of 15, going into 16, I officially moved. Yeah. Other than that, I was coming just back and forth, and then I was like, "Yeah, we're not doing this no more."
So you moved, and that was that so to start your position at J Purvis.
Yep. Yeah, I
Okay.
was working at J Purvis remotely from North Carolina for a few years. But
Oh, okay.
so every time a meeting would come that was important, I was in the car driving the 6.5 hours, and I was like, no, this is not about to, no. So I left, and I literally packed a small bag, and I think at that time I had like $100 in my account. I had an aunt that lived here, so I can't. I said I just need to stay on your couch or something for a few months. She said I have a spare room. Just pay the minimum for rent, and we'll figure it out. I did that for a few months. Started getting a ton of bookings after that, so my money grew, and so I then was able to get up and move out. But I've been here ever since. But I really started literally from the bottom.
So while you're at J Purvis, are you on the side working with Chris?
Yeah, so when we were there, we were actually brought in. So we came in at a very unique time. So J Purvis was already thriving, but they were about to open a Los Angeles division, not a Los Angeles office, but an actual division from Atlanta. And they said, we know that you've been kind of, wanting to transition out of management. Would you be willing to do this? Because they had seen, we had placed someone over there that was a series regular, and everybody else that we had placed over there, they were working. So they were like, okay, you might know something.
Right, right.
So we we went in there, had no idea what we were doing as far as the agent side. We weren't taught how to do it. We kind of just learned on the go. And we just always made a commitment to, if we make a mistake, never make the same mistake twice. And it kind of just, kind of built and took off from there. But me and Chris, we just built our own roster there out of Los Angeles, and it became to where it was working. So then obviously actors talk. So that actor knows someone that's in Atlanta, that actor knows someone that's in New York. So now they all want us to rep them. So then it went from us just having the Los Angeles branch to now we are able to do Los Angeles, New York, and also Atlanta. So it just grew from there.
Wow. I mean, I didn't realize that Chris was also at J Purvis. So he had been there, maybe a few years
Yeah,
before you.
yeah, he knew them before me. He actually brought me into the fold with them because he knew the owner, Joy, for a few years before, and he brought people to them, and then together we brought talent to them that were just working.
And then how did you guys create, eventually you guys branched off and, created your own thing. Like I mean, that must've been a big risk in your mind. Cause you were like with with an agency, like you were like, people were booking, like you were making, funds were coming in, and it's kind of like a huge leap of faith.
It was because it wasn't planned. Like we literally were let go. We were fired. So once we were fired, it was like,
what would you say was the reason? Why did they say you were fired? What was the reasoning?
They said they were making some changes. They were even moving offices, and they did. They moved offices, and they said that we just can't afford you. That's what they said. Is that the real reason? Who knows? We never know.
You know what? So, yeah. Continue.
So we were like, what are we gonna do? And we were like, okay, we know what we're doing. Just take a breath, and let's just start. Because we had no desire from the beginning, especially like that quick, or even at all, to run our own agency. But we picked up the pieces and kind of moved pretty quickly and just made it happen. And was able to run through the processes and get it done a little bit quicker than the average person.
So as distraught as you must have been when no one likes to be fired. I don't care what anybody says, right? But It was the biggest gift you could have gotten.
It was the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
So I wasn't complaining. I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. I don't know, but I knew it was about to happen. I knew. Like I knew when. Can you guys come in here for a second for a quick meeting? They say that all the time, but I knew right then. I said, "Hey, Chris, this about to be it." He said, "What?" And literally,
guillotine is coming.
Right. And literally, it was it. And they said they had to downsize, and they let that office go, and they went to another office building. And yeah, so. That was a whole thing. So yeah, I don't know. I knew it was coming, and he to this day he said, "How did you know?" I don't know. I felt it.
So when the dust settled, after the guillotine came, you could have gone to another agency. You could have what made you want to start your own thing?
We had offers from other agencies that were asking to come in and work with them, but the first thing that popped in my mind is you can't get fired if you own the company.
Good for you. And you had Chris, which was such a gift. When you find somebody that you have that synergy with, it's a gift.
Absolutely. And we were like, we're thinking on the same wavelength. And again, I will always say you cannot get fired when you own the company. So never happening again. So we just made that work. But yeah, it was quick. Like I said, it was the best thing that ever happened. It really didn't. It felt like we only. Between us getting let go and us starting our own company and actually it, working, it was like maybe 3 months in between. It was quick because it doesn't usually happen that quick. We knew what to do. We knew what it took to run an agency. We had the relationships and it just worked.
I think you guys had a really meteoric rise because I'm trying to remember how we got connected, how I got wind of, because it wasn't.
I think it was it a referral from someone that had probably mentioned us to you guys? It may. I honestly I cannot remember. I felt like I've known you guys for forever. I just don't remember.
I think it was one of your clients from Atlanta who was taking classes at our LA studio. I was talking to her. I think it was Quadrant.
My buddy. Yeah, absolutely. That's my buddy. Yeah.
And then I think
it was.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was. Yeah,
And then
no.
and then I was like so excited. I was like, wow, there's this new agency that we have, coming on our program. And then like I think within like a few months, it's like everyone was like, oh yeah, that's Tay and Chris. And I think
Yeah,
you guys were called something else back then, or something like it was a different
yeah.
name.
Look, we hit the ground running. I will say we had a little bit of an advantage because we knew what to do and we already knew how the inner workings of an agency worked. So it wasn't like we were coming in, with just this idea of running an agency and we have to, kind of find our way. We knew exactly what to do, and we had all like so. Me and Chris were the ones where, because we weren't taught what to do, we were doing things that the average agent in the Southeast was not doing. Let me say that. So we were, getting bookings and we're going to set. We're sitting there, we're talking to the producer, the casting director shows up, we talking to the casting director. We're sitting there on our phones doing pitches, while we're sitting on set. Hey, you should see this person, you should see this person. So we're doing this, and we were implementing certain things that made us stand out to casting directors from the beginning
Okay.
to make us like them.
But here's the thing. That saying, your story, it's easier probably for me to see than even you, because you were at the right place at the right time. And let me tell you something too. Had you and Chris been in LA or New York, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but there's no way you have that escalation, what Brian was talking about, how you just propelled so quickly in Atlanta, because you were not only at the right place at the right time, you were in a small pond and became a big fish real quick.
So everything is all about timing. Like I
Yeah.
can't control it. It's
Well,
the
you did control it. The desire is the thing that started it all.
Yeah, it is. Like I couldn't time it well, but I knew I'm just going with the feeling. I knew what I ultimately wanted to do, and I was just going with the flow of things and the feeling of what was right, what was wrong. And when I felt as though it was time to leave, whether it's leave the music business, or hey, we just got to let go. Let's go ahead and do this. Whatever it was, everything just panned out to be the perfect time. That's why I knew it was just meant to be. So I don't question too many things. I'm the type of person where if I go to McDonald's and they give me the wrong order, I'm not going to question it because you might have saved me from something. I don't know.
And I have to tell you something, Tay. Like Atlanta to me is like, unlike New York and LA, it's just growing and growing. Like these two other cities have been here for a long time. Atlanta, 20 years ago, let's just say hardly existed, right? But like
You're right.
but like it's growing by the day. And you came at the right time, 2016. Oh my
I came
gosh.
at the right time and in the right place. And I will say this: we've been taking some meetings with some pretty powerful people here over the past 2 to 3 months, and just be prepared to what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, the small pond is going to be an ocean.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. They're already putting things in place, even down to, it gets so deep that, it's even politics, like literal politicians involved and things like that. So we have meetings with politicians because they're the source to a lot of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we just thinking outside of the box and trying to grow it, and we're not here trying to take over. We're just trying to say it's its own hub. Everyone has their own. LA has their own hub. New York has their own hub. Chicago and Atlanta, they have their own hub. Australia has their own hub, and the UK has their own. So we just trying to be in a mix.
Yeah, but Atlanta is a right to work state, which really opens a lot of
It's
doors.
a ton of doors, and you cannot get rid of these tax incentives.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very unique. Like I said, everything was meant to be. I couldn't write it better. My story, the way that it happened, I couldn't write it better.
So Tay, I feel like just listening to how you started with, like you working 24/7, and I feel like it's a recurring theme because I know you now, and you still work that
Yeah.
hard and you still work nonstop.
Yeah.
I just love to hear like what keeps you going to to constantly putting in those hours and really expanding, and it just sounds like it's almost like
But
you clearly must love the work.
but besides coffee, yeah. You know what? I'm always thinking about what's the next goal? Like, I have a vision of how I want my life to run. I have a
Ah,
vision of when it's all said and done, whether that's, you know, retirement or whether it's just, I'm gone. I want it to be, I want to have accomplished a certain amount of things and specific things. I want to
mm,
leave a certain legacy that's gonna exceed far beyond me, but something that I plan to see too. But that
give a
keeps me like
specific
the
thing.
simple things.
What's one specific thing you have in your head?
Um, you, oh man, I don't want to say. I don't want to say. This might be giving away too much.
No, you don't have.
Look.
You don't have to.
But yeah, but
There
because
must be something else that you don't
we
have to
got
worry
we
about.
no, absolutely. We have some plans. And when the announcements and everything comes over a course of time, you know what? We'll make
How about
sure that you're
besides
one of the
that?
first to know.
You seem to be a type of person when you're not here anymore. You want to leave something.
Yeah,
What's that something else you want to leave?
it's involving what we're thinking about doing now.
Okay, you got it.
Moving to the next level. Um, Creating jobs. I'll say that as well too, because even as agenting, it's different levels to agenting. I will definitely say that. And I'm always wanting to just. I love the actors so much. Some of them, they can be a headache at times. I love them so much that sometimes I see the ones that do have the desire, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm not booking at the rate, or I should have gotten that. I want to." James, okay, I think you should have gotten that too. How about we create the power that be to be able to place you in that, so that you don't have to go through the long process to where you might get overlooked or you keep getting told no. When I know that you're gifted, I know if you were on that screen doing that role, there wouldn't be any hiccups in the performance. So how can I put myself in a place to where you don't have to hear the words no? We can just make it happen.
Tay, you know what? You know what's interesting? And we're not going to go into what you're thinking, but here's the thing. Okay, you take how real estate is changing. For instance,
Yep.
you used to have a broker, and they would take you on the tour of the place, and they would say, "There's the kitchen," and I would say to myself, "Oh, thanks for letting me know where the kitchen is." But then slowly, we're starting to see a transition that, hey, wait a second. We don't need the real estate the agent or the broker.
Yep.
We can just go to the house or the apartment. There's a
Exactly.
lockbox. We can look at it ourselves. And now there's no, so things change, and your head is going into a place of going with the change.
You're absolutely right. I think future first. It's rare that I think about the present. I'm always thinking future first. Like, what is it going to look like, 5 or 10 years from now? How is the industry going to look? What is it really going to be doing? And I kind of see and I know where I want to be. And me and Chris had these discussions. So how can we make that happen to where we can kind of structure? Because I already feel as though we're on the ground floor, just like you were just saying, with this whole Atlanta boom in this industry. We're on the ground floor of something that is majorly historic that never been done at this pace before. And I feel as though that we're pivotal toward. And because I can see the work, I can see us changing lives. I can see us, we had talked to, it's a casting director and it's a production entity here. And we would go through their attorney, their legal services every once in a while, like when the contracts would come over. And so we were doing such a good job that years down the line, that attorney will come to us and like, hey, I have a niece that wants to be an actor. Could you take a look at them? But one thing that she had said that I didn't realize, because we're just doing the work, she said, do you realize that you book 60% of everything that comes through this studio? I didn't realize that. So I knew that we were doing well. I knew that, a project for this casting director or for this production entity will come across to where, you might see one booking come, they might send you an offer for one booking, but we would have 5 or 6 in one day from that same project. So I was like, okay, that's kind of getting in the swing of things. But she told us that, yeah, you book 60% of everything that they do. So it kind of let us know how we were doing, because we really didn't know those numbers.
I like to ask this question just because I think, a lot of our listeners are actors, and they sometimes, actors, like, they think they have a tunnel
Yeah.
vision. They think it's only them that, has a struggle. And if they encounter a casting assistant who's like grumpy, it's like, they take it personally. Or so what we've tried to, enlighten them, because we've had, we have casting directors and producers and writers and other
Mhm.
managers that, we've invited for the podcast, is kind of show it's like, hey, everyone in this industry has their own, like, day to day, struggle. I kind of just want to
Absolutely.
know, like, in your job, and I think, our staff, like I think in a previous interview, you've said being a representative is like a 24/7 job.
It is.
It's what are the struggles? Like, what do you kind of, struggle with, in your day to
Well,
day?
well, thank you for asking, and I'm going to tell you because I've been implementing these. So, it's the constant pulling, from actors, managers, you can say, and then also, casting. I don't mind the casting directors because we're gonna get the deal closed. But it's some of the actors that's constantly pulling at like the oddest times, and so what I had to do is really take a
Give it
step
a
back. And what
definition of pulling. Like what's pulling?
calling you for every little thing
Gotcha. Yeah.
that's insignificant,
What
like
color
really
should I wear? Yeah.
insignificant. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Call it like perfect example. Perfect example is this past weekend. I was in San Francisco, and an actor called me, and they keep in mind they are in Atlanta. So Atlanta time, it was 11 o'clock at night. They're calling me to tell me that they uploaded their audition. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't answer the phone. I did answer the phone, but they left it on the voicemail and sent me a text, just let you know I uploaded the audition. Why are you calling me and telling me that? So I'm
Right.
accessible. I'm accessible. So it's stuff like that. To where again it was the weekend. So what I've been working on for the past year, and I'm going to implement it throughout, is I've been trying to set up barriers to where I can do more self care.
Uh-huh.
And I know the type of person I am. At some point, I need breaks in between. Whether it's number one, I'll go into a personal retreat. I'll go take a weekend or so vacation with an extended day. So where it's a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday of a holiday. And I'll go to
Mm,
a secluded area just to be by myself. I flew to Arizona not too long ago just to be alone. But
mm,
also, the biggest thing was I made a commitment to myself that unless it's an emergency on the weekend, I'm not answering.
mm-hmm,
It has to be an emergency. If it's an emergency, because my phone is going to be on do not disturb.
mm-hmm,
So unless it's an emergency, like it's like between you're already on set or something, or you really really need something. It's not involving your headshot. It's not you texting me saying, "Could you take a look at my audition?" Because I want you to see if the lighting is good.
mm-hmm,
I give you my time Monday through Friday. Let me have these 2 days.
mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I've been working on that moving forward, and it's really been helping because you got to figure. So if you didn't implement those, you know, pandemic aside, an agent literally gets about 2 weeks of vacation throughout the entire year, and that's around the Christmas time, going into New Year's. That is it. Other than that, it's literally all the time. I get calls at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm closing deals literally at 1 o'clock in the morning, midnight, 11, all of that. And it's nonstop. The phone is going off. I mean, you probably heard the phone go off 3 times since I've been sitting here talking to you guys. So it's just, you got to set up barriers. I'm not going to lose a deal. I'm not going to lose any money, but it has to make sense for you to be reaching out, at midnight and you're the actor, or over the weekend and you're the actor. So it needs to make sense. So I had to put up those barriers for self care.
I'm glad you're implementing that, because I remember we talked over, dinner about this, and I was like, I need to
Yeah.
do the same thing. This is why I need to get out, like, for like,
Right.
once a month. Otherwise, I go crazy.
Take your time, even if it's just a weekend vacation. If
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a place that you've never been, a cabin. If you like to go
yeah.
by water to feel peace. If you like to go to a meditation retreat, where hiking, whatever it is.
Downtown
please
Baltimore.
never.
It's just the change of scenery for me too, because otherwise I'm like, is my life just like answering people's calls and emails and all these crazy things?
Like, that's what it feels like. So you have to break up the monotony of that, from time to time. Be like, no, I'm a little bit more than that. Let me work on myself.
Exactly.
But to answer your question, never moving back to Baltimore.
I mean, people always ask me like, Brian, why do you like to eat by yourself? Because I love solo dining and just having like a nice dinner. I go, you don't understand. This is the only time like during the day when I can hear my own thoughts. Like otherwise the entire day is like listening to it's like being yelled at, like all this other crap.
You sound like me. Like I was literally when I flew out, I was literally just there by myself eating in a restaurant, and I was at peace. It was I love it. I love it.
Tay, I knew you and I were like, whatever, we're going to be friends when we had dinner in Atlanta. I can't remember. Was it last year or a few months ago,
Yeah.
whatever it was. And they were like, hey, do you want drinks? And then you ordered blueberry juice. And I was like, oh, you don't drink either.
I don't. I do not drink.
Yes, and I was like, same here.
Oh man, yeah. No, it's a lot. The industry weighs on you a lot, but it's so rewarding. It's really rewarding. A lot of these people have helped me achieve my dreams, and in return, I can see where I helped them achieve theirs. I was looking at one of our actors, and like, oh, I want to give you my new address, and I looked at the home. It was like a $2.5 million home. I was like, oh, okay, we've done very well for you. I see.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Right. So yeah, but I love it. I wouldn't turn it down for just the business in its entirety. I wouldn't be doing anything else.
Great. Well, Tay, you are
unbelievable. This time has flown by, Tay.
I know. It's like we could have talked for more hours, but I know you have to get some sleep after your whirlwind trip.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to drink a little bit more coffee and get a little bit later in the day and see what we can do. But yeah, no. I really enjoyed. I have stories for days, so sometimes you have to tell me to shut up. But I enjoy talking. Oh. I enjoy chatting with you guys. I really do love you guys and everything that you guys have what you've done and what you've built. 30 years. It's just amazing. Like I say, it's a clear difference from where I go to where I've stopped going to others. I really have. So I really applaud you guys for just putting the best people forward, because it makes our job a whole lot easier.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't done it yet, grab the Backstage Pass. You've got to get the Backstage Pass. There's behind the scenes footage. We've taken the biggest takeaways from the episode and written them down for you. There's also tools and resources to help move your career forward. It's the easiest way to turn this podcast into a tool for your career, as opposed to something you just listen to as you're doing the dishes.